up, everyone? Darkscream217 here,
And this is Multifire.
and today we're going to make a video response to BizarroDX of the YouTube channel JadedOtakuMedia. The response is going to be on his latest review entitled "What's Wrong with Anime? Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt."
JadedOtakuMedia has implied by the title of the video we are replying to is someone who runs a series called What's Wrong with Anime, which is a series completely dedicated to attacking anime he doesn't approve of. One of the many reasons he does this is to eventually improve anime and put it in a better light. As we all know, anime tends to have a bad reputation. However, I don't think this can be achieved by just plainly attacking something, especially when all of his points have no objective facts and are all based on subjective opinions.
So, with all that said, we will cover his video point by point as a regular response and a respectful defense of the show.
One of the first things he does is call the show the Meet the Spartans of anime, something that is clearly nothing more than an ad hominem attack. This is something you throw out in an attempt to tear down something without having to present any actual facts. This type of misinformation is a way to bring the audience into your own bias at the beginning of the review. Also, you can't possibly tell me there are no facts that can be used. For example, interviews with the cast, budget, etc.
One of the points he makes about Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt is that the episodes with referential titles do not really parody directly to the subject matter of the title, with the only two exceptions he points out are Transhomers and Ellipses of the Dead. Now, the other episodes may not be direct parodies, however, all of the titles do relate directly to the content of the episode, even if it isn't a parody of the actual American shows. And you know what? It's okay because, honestly, I don't see how Panty and Stocking is a straightforward parody. To me, it's just another off the wall comedy series that occasionally uses some parody elements, like most other comedies I've seen in anime.
He also goes on to make the claim that the characters don't develop. Saying a character doesn't develop at all is an extremely hefty claim, but it's the claim he makes, especially when the characters smack you in the face with their development. Keep in mind that this show is a comedy, meaning the characters aren't even required to do a lot of developing, but they do anyway. We learn that Stocking is someone who is really interested in love rather than sex, even though she has poor taste in men. We also learned that Panty has an interest in Brief, and deep down she really does care for him. We learned that Garter has a troubled past and had a long road that he had to walk to get to where he is. We learned that Brief has an odd James Bondish side. The other characters don't really get enough screen time, or it'd be too difficult to develop in a comedy setting, although they did try by giving Chuck his own campy episode.
Speaking of Chuck, I just want to take a little defense rant of them. Now, when Bizarro went on to cover Chuck, he puts in his text in his video saying, "Way to steal character designs, Gynax," emphasizing on the fact that Chuck's design is borrowed heavily from Gur's dog form in the Nickelodeon cartoon Invader Zim. Now, I'm going to say it right here. Chuck is my least favorite character in the series. However, I do find that Chuck being bashed because of his design looking almost like Gur has been completely overblown and rather unnecessary. Hell, even Jonan Vasquez, creator of Invader Zim, doesn't really care that his character was being imitated. He even calls Chuck his own personal Mr. Sparkle, which is a Simpsons reference. And I've seen so many character designs being based off of earlier designs as long as I could remember, especially when it comes to anime and even video games. See, Kaola Sue was based off of Edward from Cowboy Bebop, M. Bison was somewhat based off of Brocken Jr. from Kinnikuman, and there was a dog character in the OVA series Ruin Explorers by the name of Gil, who looks and even acts like Muttley from Wacky Racers. Another point he makes is that he calls Scanty Socks and Brief as quote unquote comedy relief characters, and calling any character a comedy relief character in a basic comedy series is just not right. See, because there is no relieving that needs to be done in a comedy show since it's all comedy and not meant to be taken very seriously. And comedy reliefs only exist in darker shows where they're needed to break up the mood, hence the name. And the only time comedy relief was actually added was during the last two episodes when the series got a little darker and a tad more serious when they tried to wrap up the entire show.
He moves on to bash the characters, calling them the most poorly written and the most poorly conceived characters he has seen in any medium. This is another baseless ad hominem attack that he cites no evidence to support his claims. He doesn't bother pulling any examples from the anime. You were just supposed to take his word for it. He doesn't even bother pulling examples from other animes to show that they clearly are more superior to the shit that's in Panty and Stocking. This is what most of his reviews are like. Go ahead and check out some of the videos on his channel.
Alright, the next point he covers is the visuals of the anime, saying that the backgrounds are horribly drawn, the character designs are atrocious, and the overall production is low budget. And this point I really can't agree with because I have seen worse and cheaper animation, such as Remember My Mr. Lovecraft, which was done in Flash and wasn't even well executed in that style due to the very weak animation. And as for the series being low budget, you really don't need Akira level budget animation for a simple comedy series like this. I'm not saying you should draw this with stick figures, but you really don't need an overly detailed series either. In fact, the simple 90s Hanna-Barbera Powerpuff Girls Dexter's Laboratory like art style gives it a more unique look and helps it stand out from the other anime.
He complains that the style used to animate was done to appeal to the American audience. Of course it was. It was meant to make fun of the American art style. In a community where people mostly brag about American animation being superior, it was refreshing to see a little fun poked at us.
And then he follows up about the comedy by saying he prefers his comedies and sex jokes with style, class, and flair. And he provides examples of Caddyshack and Weird Science, which are Western live action films. He even lists some comedies at the end that apparently have character development, but not a single one of them was an anime. And this point wouldn't bug me so much if he actually compared it to other comedy anime out there, but not once did he utter a word about Excel Saga, Cromartie High School, Magical Shopping Arcade Abenabashi, which is another Gainax title, Nurse Witch Kamugi, and some of these shows I listed do make a lot of references and even some Western pop culture references as well. So, in comparison to Panty and Stocking, are they better? Are they worse? About the same? Or is he just not a fan of the comedy and anime at all? And if so, why provide such a biased review?
JadedOtakuMedia, you ask what liking shows like this says about us. I would assume it says the animation company knows we love a great sense of humor. However, apparently only shows you like can use humor to appeal to that lowest common denominator. You want to mention how South Park does it so much better, except you don't give us examples. Need I remind you that South Park was considered lowbrow just like Panty and Stocking? Guess what? Its art style was also considered terrible, regardless of how long it took them to make. It doesn't matter how many times you use the words lowbrow and other overused self-important elitist phrases. The fact that you continuously bash on shows and their audience by calling them stupid shows your constant need to look down on people. As much as I wanted to stay calm, I have to say, sir, that is wrong.
I also want to add that at the end of the day, the majority of the American public does not see the animation the same way Japan does or most anime fans in the West do. And anime here in the States is still very niche. It's not really a hot market, despite what the internet says. So, of course, vocally, we can't really get our word out as well as we want it to. So, of course, it's going to make fun of how the general public perceives Western animation.
He also mentions that when Panty and Stocking goes domestic, you should support the release. Yeah, nice, go ahead and support and buy something he just told you was complete garbage. Don't support something if you don't like it. Besides, he is one to talk. He bashes on anime and never gives a good review for anything. If anyone doesn't support anime, it's him.
In conclusion, I thought BizarroDX missed the mark big time in this review. Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt is a pretty good anime. It's nowhere near being the absolute worst anime of all time because believe me, there are worse stuff out there and I have seen them. But it's not the greatest show ever made. In fact, the opinions about this show is very polarized with a lot of positive and negative feedback going into it. But then again, so is a lot of Gainax's popular titles like Neon Genesis Evangelion Fully Cooley. Seriously, look up Evangelion. There are at least 1,000 different opinions about that show, good and bad. I would only recommend this show if you like some of Gynax's what the fuck style of humor with a unique Western twist to it.
The fact that he had such a hard time enjoying the show reveals the flaw in leaving out the popcorn factor. When he doesn't care about how much fun an anime is, and instead he is constantly watching a show and judging the hell out of it, he won't end up enjoying anything. The show isn't the most outstanding in a technical sense, but is a lot of fun and very distinguished from the rest of the anime coming to America. I, for one, would recommend it a watch.
Well, I think that's all we have to say regarding our response to Jaded Otaku Media. This is Darkscreen217 signing out.
And this is Multifire, and I'll see you in future videos.
All right.